Plan on flying? In order to board domestic flights, your driver's license or state-issued ID must be a real ID. Learn how to get your real ID today at tsa.gov/real ID or visit your local DMV.
Hey, and welcome to my corner of the world over to yours. I am so glad you have stopped by to listen to my latest podcast episode. This one's very special. Well, they're all special. This one's really special. I feature Ron Sowell. He is a wonderful musician, the host of NPR's Mountain Stage, and has a great new release out, Dance Till I Can't Stop. It is a collection of amazing 10 songs where he just takes you through every musical genre you could possibly think of. It's just a lot of fun. We talk about the recording process, how all that really came together. And it's just really check it out wherever you can get your music. RonSowell.com, RonSowell. Great musician from West Virginia. Spoke with me from Charleston, but he fell in love with the hills and mountains of West Virginia many moons ago as he was traversing the great fruited plain of the United States, and just arrived on scene there and has been creating wonderful music over there for many years and has kept Mountain Stage going for more than 4 decades. So I'm glad you're here today. I'm releasing this on Cinco de Mayo. The album, Ron's album, fully comes out on May 9th of 2025 as we speak. Enjoy. I really had a really great time listening to Ron. He's got a great story about Arlo Guthrie in here. Stay tuned through that as well. Has a wonderfully talented daughter as well, who gets a good mention in here. He also has wonderful female backup singers, a great band in this release. So get it wherever you get that music. I will speak with you on the other side of this episode. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm so glad that you're available this morning here in early April of 2025. And you got a brand new, exciting project out. It's just so lovely to hear this and to hear this kind of music coming from your corner of the world, which is in West Virginia.
Yeah. By the way, I love the title of your podcast. I very often, when I reach out to people, I say, "How are things in your corner of the world?" I just love that.
Yeah. Well, I come from a place here in the Atlanta, Georgia metro area called Peachtree Corners.
Yeah.
And I always had that domain because I wrote a blog for many years and just called it Tales from the Corners. Very folksy. So
yeah, great. Yeah. So I'm thrilled to be here with you. Yeah, I'm glad you could work me into the podcast. Yeah.
And more specifically, you're in Charleston.
Yeah, Charleston, West Virginia. Yeah, I've lived here for since the 70s. I came here to just to get off the road for the summer and rented a little farmhouse, and it turned into be a very long summer. So I'm still here.
Seriously, what was it about Charleston, West Virginia that excited you?
It wasn't Charleston that drew me here. I had some friends that were living out in the country between here and Huntington. And it was 70s, and it was kind of the back to the land movement.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were all hippies moving to the country and growing a garden, and beaches and find Jesus on our own. So it just the beauty of the country and the simplicity of the lifestyle and the authenticity of the people just really drew me. But I thought, well, this is great, but I will never be able to make a living playing music here. And it totally, West Virginia totally proved me wrong. I had two original bands, the one for about 7 years and one for 9 years. And people said, "Oh, you can't do original music. People won't come." And we were like, the thing in West Virginia. And then this little radio show, Mountain Stage, grew up in my backyard, and I became a member of that. So I've been thriving here.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just unique. I just love the rolling hills and your mountains and all that. I went to school at Howard University in Athens, Ohio, many
Yeah.
moons ago, and
Oh, right
love
across
going
the
over
river.
to West Virginia.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a beautiful place. Mm.
So it must be very inspirational to be a lyricist, singer-songwriter in that area. It must be incredibly inspiring just being in that scenery.
Oh, yeah, it is. It is. And uh, I just, of course, the being anchored in all this beauty and with real people, or when I say real people, I mean just not fancy people, but working class people, and then the juxtaposition between that and then being on Mountain Stage, where I'm exposed to some of the best musicians on the planet, and a whole different world. Just the confluence of those two things really is very inspiring. Yeah.
Yeah, and so how did all of that come about with Mountain Stage? And then is it syndicated on NPR? Is that how it worked over time?
Yeah, and now it's syndicated on NPR, and we're on almost right, just almost 300 stations now, nationwide. And when we started, I actually had a band called the Putnam County Pickers, one of those
Mm.
first two bands I mentioned to you, and we did the pilot for Mountain Stage in 1981. And then it took a couple of years for them to raise the money and really get the show to get the show off and running. And I was a guest on the show for the first year, but I joined the show after about a year and a half as a guitar player and harmonica player. And then eventually, it was just at the time it was just a once a month, just a local show, and then it became statewide, and then shortly after I joined the band, NPR accepted us, and we were on about 30 something stations at the time. So but it's been 41 years now,
Yeah, it
which is
really adds up,
is
doesn't it?
it's like the gift that keeps on giving, you know?
It does. It does. It's very unique for those who go on NPR and listen to the different types of programming you wouldn't find anywhere else. It's just so eclectic. And how did you sell it to them? How did that process come about where they were like, "Yeah, we got something special here, and we're gonna take it."
You mean how did Mountain
Like
Stage?
executives at NPR.
Yeah, well, from the beginning, people said, "Oh, you can't do a show like that in West Virginia.
Yeah.
It's impossible." And then so that worked, and then about a year and a half later, we said, "Well, we want to take it to a national platform." And they said, "Oh, well, that'll never work. Little West Virginia market, and what you do, it'll never translate to the national market." But it ended up being that being in West Virginia, we were able to do our shows because of the cost of living here, and because the way that people are used to doing things here, we could produce the show at a much less cost, and so that ended up being a real plus. Of course, we have sponsors, and we have the stations, pay a fee to host the show and everything. So we have other resources, of course, and even a couple of years ago, our state legislature,
Mm.
they were looking for a way to promote West Virginia to the rest of the country,
Yeah.
and we had some friends in the legislature who said, "Well, what if let's just hypothetically, what if there was a radio show that went to the every week on the country and promoted a positive, cutting edge image of West Virginia?" They went, "Yeah, we could do that." I says, "Well, you already have it, actually." Because a lot of them weren't aware of it. and we became a line item on the budget. So that means that they have to vote to get us off rather than to to put us on every year. So that's another thing that has sustained the show. Yeah.
Good. And hopefully it keeps on going. Is the
Yeah.
legislature these days, they're still receptive to you and saying,
Yeah,
hey,
it's not a very favorable climate right now, but
yeah,
we have
yeah.
friends, so we keep our fingers crossed. Yeah.
Good, good. Very challenging for many people across the NPR
Yeah.
spectrum, and
Yeah.
very sad about Voice of America. I'm just
Oh,
heartbroken over all that too.
we used to be on Voice of America, Mountain
Yeah.
Stage, for years, and they would carry our program, and so we would get fan letters from little islands in the Indian Ocean.
Isn't
It
that
was
amazing? Yeah, they're
yeah,
fascinated with the culture. It's like, wow, this music is just amazing. So, and you have probably just very eclectic musicians throughout that entire region. It's just it's of its own and
well,
probably has a rich history too.
we get we basically it's roots music, which means something it's the authentic stuff. So it could be blues, it could be bluegrass, it could be jazz. We have a lot of world music, Celtic music, African music. Um, every one show could be all about bluegrass, one show could be all about singer-songwriters, and then you'd have a show where you have all that together.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, my girlfriend's from Parkersburg, so I
oh,
we
hey, right,
visit
hey,
every now and then. Yeah, it's just they come to visit, and I used to visit a lot during when I was in college as well.
huh?
So I got a good sense of that area, Marietta, Ohio, and going over to Parkersburg. It's just really, really beautiful. Asheville, North Carolina, has a lot of those same characteristics because of the
Love
mountains
it.
and all that. But Parkersburg, with all the industry over
Yeah.
there, that's just it's very, very interesting.
Well, I hope the next time you come, you have a chance to stop by. If there's a show, come by and say hi to my
Yeah,
man.
yeah. I miss it. It's just so part of my youth, and when I spent time
Mhm.
in that area, it's just like comfort food. It kind of
Providence is a
comes
great
back.
music. Yeah, we do at least one show a year from the Blackburn, whatever it is, auditorium there. Yeah, and
Yeah, yeah. They've done a lot of work. I was there. It's been a while, but yeah, a lot of work they've been doing
yeah,
to the university over there. It's just really
mhm,
just beautiful, and you just feel like it's such a beautiful getaway. I could see why what attracted you to that. You find peace and serenity in the hills.
yeah. Well, I grew up in a very different part of the country. I
Yeah,
was born in Texas. I grew up in New Mexico,
yeah.
Roswell, New Mexico. Doo, 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 doo.
Way, yeah. Talking about flatlands and
Yeah, yeah.
all that.
And I mean, when uh, I lived in a series of cities and traveled around the country, but when the first time I came back to East, the thing that I was struck with, I couldn't believe how green it was. I would
Yeah.
have to stop my car about every 50 miles and get out and go, God, this is so lush and so green. Because in New Mexico, you have green, but it's a very muted
Oh
green. It's a
yeah.
kind of green. So this is a really different kind of beauty. I mean, New Mexico it has its own kind of extraordinary beauty. So
Yeah, way, way different. Yeah, for
yeah.
sure. So
Mhm.
yeah. And now you had how many releases as a solo artist have you had out now?
Well, well, I had two albums with my first band, the Putnam County Pickers, two with my second band, Stark Raven, and then this is my fourth solo release. Um, uh, and in between, I'm a producer, so I produce a lot of other people too. So and so I'm producing. I produced this album, and the hardest thing I've had to do is to get my producer to whip me into shape to to commit to doing the album. So I usually do a solo album every 8 or 9 or 10 years. It seems that's my cycle. I'm not. I was just listening to one of your podcasts with John McCutcheon, and I
Oh
think he
yeah.
I think he releases an album every week. He's so prolific. But I
Oh
mean
gosh.
I'm busy and I'm active and I do a lot of music, but I only get around to producing my own stuff. that's about the cycle for me. Yeah.
Yeah, and on this project, how long did this take? And did you go to Nashville for the recording of this?
No. Well, just for a small portion of it. The way it happened was in when COVID hit, like the rest of us singer-songwriters, I find myself at home, and I thought and I had a little conversation with myself. I said, I've always said that I would write a lot more if I just had some free, unstructured time.
Yeah.
So, boom, no excuses. So I had been wanting to do an album, so I called my longtime collaborator, one of my dear friends, John Wickstrom, who lives in Baltimore. He's from Charleston, or West Virginia originally. And I asked him if he'd like to help me. I had a bunch of songs I'd started. Would he like to help me write this album? And he enthusiastically agreed. And so about once a week, we had a standard this FaceTime phone call, and we wrote about 25 songs. And so I narrowed those down to 10 for this album. And the album itself took about 6 months to record. And we recorded it in Beckley, West Virginia, at a friend of mine who has a small studio there. Just a very modest studio, but he really knows what he's doing. He's got a great ear. He's a great engineer. His name is Dan Bailey. And I've produced 3 or 4 projects with him. And because I've spent a lot of time in the studio and I'm a producer myself, so the two of us were able to navigate through, with the technology now, if you've got good microphones and you've got good recording software, and you hopefully know what you're doing,
Yeah.
you can produce a really quality album anywhere. But we recorded the basic tracks with a bass player, drummer, my longtime buddy Ahmed Solomon from Mountain Stage. He's a drummer. One of the guitar players from Mountain Stage, Ryan Kennedy, incredible electric guitar player and classical guitar player. And I had a bass player named Lars Swanson.
Mm-hmm.
And Lars plays upright acoustic, and he plays a fretless bass. And I am a total slut for fretless bass. I mean, I just something about the sound that I just can't resist. And then I play a little church gig every Sunday at the Unity Church here in Charleston. And I have a piano player that I've been playing with for about 5 years, Jeff Hott. And he's a great player, and he's never recorded before. So that was my core band.
Oh, wow.
So we recorded the tracks. I had a bunch of overdubs, like these 3 of the songs in there have 3-part girl vocals, women vocals on it. And I say girl vocals because they're kind of like doo-wop, Motown stuff.
Right. Gives a good texture. Yeah.
Yeah. And I went to Nashville to overdub those vocals because my daughter, whose name is Mira Costa, perhaps you've heard a duo called The Sea, but anyway, she's an incredible singer, and she lives in Nashville now. And our host for Mountain Stage now is Kathy Mattea. Larry Gross was the original host. He retired. Kathy took over, and so Kathy still lives in Nashville, and she commutes to Charleston to do the show. So Mira and Kathy, and then a friend of Mira's named Kira Small, who is a beautiful singer.
Yeah.
And we went to a studio there in Nashville and overdubbed the vocals on 3 of the tracks. And then Kathy sang a duet with me on one of the tracks, harmony, the dominant harmony part on one of the tracks. And then I had on another, I went to Ashland, Kentucky, to which is right down the road, to overdub a clarinet. I wanted a clarinet on one.
Yeah.
And then there was one of the songs that John and I wrote, John Wickstrom and I wrote, when we were started writing it. I said, John, this is a straight ahead Tex-Mex song, and I'm from New Mexico. I mean, this is just feels to me like the stuff I grew up with, because there's a lot of different genres on this styles.
Yeah, I could definitely feel that.
Hopefully, they all hang together. I think they do, but when we did this, we did it. I just produced it as a full out Tex-Mex song, and the entire time we were doing it, in my mind, I was hearing button accordion, the Tex-Mex button accordion. And I'd met a guy named Joel Guzman on Mountain Stage several times, once with Joe Ely and once with his band Azteca. He is like the reigning accordion and, virtuoso of that style. And so the whole time I'm thinking, oh God, I just hear it in my head. So we finally did all the tracks, got everything ready, and then I crossed my fingers and I reached out to him, and I didn't know what I was going to do if he said no at that point.
You were set on that. Yeah, definitely.
And he said, oh, I love this. Yeah, send me the tracks and we'll, so I sent him the tracks, and he did it in a little studio in Texas, and then sent the tracks back to me. We put them in, dumped them back in in our studio, and then we were able to mix it down, and it sounds like we're all playing together in the same room. So
that's the track I Never Knew.
Yes.
Yeah. Very, very nice. And how did the lyrics come apart? How did they come about on this song? Because you do some good collaboration with your lyricist, so it's like very, very interesting. Everything that I've ever wanted. It's just it has that vibe, that Tex-Mex thing going. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, well, John came up with that little play on words. I never knew you're everything I never knew I always wanted, and then we threw in the Spanish translation of I Never Knew, which is Nunca Sabía, and basically he had the title, and then very often one of us will write a chorus or a lot of the chorus, and the other one will come in and write the verses. So I helped him finish the chorus, and then wrote the verses for it. Of course, he helped me refine the verses too. John and I, we both do the lyrics, and we both do the music, and we never fight over about, you wrote 30% and I wrote 70%. Right. It's just like, I love I'm not comparing us to it, but I love the Lennon-McCartney model, where there are things where John Lennon would write almost really a whole song, and they'd still put Lennon-McCartney on it. But John and I, if we're involved in writing the song, we just do it, split it right down the middle.
Yeah, like if you want to put a bridge in, it's like nobody's keeping score. It sounds like, oh yeah, I did that bridge, I did this. It's like it's very like judicious that way, I'm sure.
And I've heard of songwriters who do that, and I just think that's is really a creative killer to me. I mean, it's not a competition. John and I, we always try to put the song first, and if we disagree on lyrics.
Yeah,
we don't fight over. If we find ourselves fighting over a lyric, we just put it aside, and we look for a third way, another way, and it's almost always better, because if you have to convince somebody you're right, in a song, when you hear it, you go, oh yeah, that's cool, I love that. If you have to explain something to somebody, then you haven't done your job as a lyricist.
Yeah, and with Kathy on, do you think it's that easy? Yeah. How did you approach her with that? I'm sure she sounded very receptive on it, but it does give that nice, texture again with your female singers.
Oh, now I have to say, that's the one song I wrote. One song by myself in the album, and this one, "Do You Think It's That Easy," was written with my friend Kate Long, who was a local songwriter. And that song's been, we originally wrote it as a woman's song. And I always loved the song, and I always wanted to sing it, but it never felt right to me. So I rewrote the lyrics to make it work from a male point of view.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And
trying
I
to be empathetic and say, and instead of having a woman write it and perform
yeah,
that, it's,
yeah,
you're tapping into that empathy, I'm sure.
yeah, and it works. You know what? It works both ways. I just had the original. There were lines in the original with the from the woman's version, like a few roses to please me. That I couldn't sing that. A man can't really sing
Yeah.
that. So we just changed those words. But uh, I really wanted Kathy to sing with me on a song, and I was uh, none of them really came out as a straight, duet, changing, alternating verses kind of thing. But so I offered this to her, and was uh, and I'd never asked her to. I mean, I work with her every week, but I'd never really asked her to sing on one of my projects. And oh, she was. I mean, Kathy is the real deal. She is not only a great artist, but she's a great person and a beautiful person. And she was very gracious and sang did those three songs that I talked about. She sang harmony, one of the three parts in that, and then she sang with me on "Do You Think It's That Easy," and that was an absolute thrill for me. And I tend to phrase things really differently. I'm not very consistent on my phrasing, and so Kathy was just able to lock right in, and uh, it's the first time I'd ever worked with her in the studio,
Mm.
and I, my thought was, she's done this before,
Been around the block, yeah.
and she,
That's great.
just she just nailed it, and her voice is so emotional, and she just brings so much to it, and I'm thrilled with how that song turned out.
Yeah, true Nashvilleian having that flavor in there. And congrats to your daughter. I had no idea
Oh,
you had the talent. The apple never falls far from
oh,
the tree, as they say. Yeah, and more female singers on Who But a Fool. Uh,
mhm.
you just and am I hearing a little bit of cowbell in there too as well?
Yes, yes, more
Yeah.
cowbell. Yeah, yes. That song was interesting because it started out as a country song. And then I had this project that was going to do with a swing band, and so it was then it kind of evolved into a string band, a swing band thing. But when my philosophy with the album with these songs was to not force them into any box,
Yeah.
to try to make them all fit together. So when I offered this one to the band, to the core band, they just jumped on this, and boom, it was a rhythm and blues kind of Motown, rhythm and blues. It reminds me of kind of Delbert McClinton, which
Mm-hmm.
I just love him,
Yeah.
and and so that it just screamed for these echo vocals. And
Yeah.
so I sat down with my daughter um, ahead of the session and said, this is what I want. And then she arranged everything and ran the vocal session, which was a real amazing experience for me, because usually I'm very hands-on and on things that I'm producing, but I just sat over in the corner and they were doing such a great job and everything was sounding so good. Every once in a while they would turn to me and say, "What do you think, Ron?" I go, "Yeah, yeah, that's good. Just keep doing what you're doing."
Yeah.
But she's an amazing singer and writer, and yeah, and it was a thrill to have her on this on the record.
Yeah, yeah, what a treat. And the whole project out this spring, Dance Till the Music Stops.
Yeah,
Your title track is inspired by, is an old high school friend, the title track?
yeah, yeah. That I had a friend in high school. He was actually a couple of years younger than me, and he married a woman who worked for my dad, and so I was friends with both of them even later after high school. But his name was Dusty, and Dusty was diagnosed with early onset Alzheimer's, and which, you know, the part of that disease is was getting the diagnosis and then knowing what was going to happen to you.
Yeah, that's
right?
awful. It's awful.
So,
It's cruel.
So his wife, her name is Heidi, and Heidi's told me that a friend of Dusty's came to him and said, "Dusty, well, this is awful. What are you going to do?" And he said, "Well, I guess I'll just dance till the music stops."
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And when she told me that story, you know, I got full body chills, and
yeah.
I knew I had to do something with that title, and it really encapsulates, I think, the essence of the album, and that is, you know, to live every moment to its fullest, and to not dwell in the past, not be anxious about the future, but to be here and the full, bring your consciousness in the fullest way to every moment, and find the joy and the peace and that to me is the core message in the album.
Oh yeah, for sure. You could totally feel that. So getting back into your past and growing up there in New Mexico, when did you pick up the instruments and start singing, and who inspired you growing up?
Yeah, well, I got well, first of all, my dad was a beautiful singer, and I sit beside him in church and sang. That's where I learned how to sing, and learned and it was a church that didn't have a piano, so I learned how to hear harmonies, and my dad also played harmonica, which I play harmonica too. I played it on a couple of tracks on the album, but I just always loved music, but I was really into sports when I was growing up.
Yeah, I saw that.
That was my thing. But when I was 13, my mom saw an ad in a local music store, and it said it had a guitar and lessons for just whatever price it was. It wasn't very much. Lessons for the summer for a package deal. And so she knew that I had expressed interest in the guitar, and so she bought that for me, and that's how I started. And I have to tell you, I have my mom, who was one of the, I'd say she's the kindest person I've ever experienced, but she had an edge to her, and one time during that summer, she came to pick me up, and I was in a summer basketball league, and she said, "Okay, well, come on, we're going to your guitar lesson." And I said, "Well, no, I don't want to play. It's getting in the way of my basketball this summer." And she said, my dear, sweet, kind mom said, "Well, I bought you the guitar. I paid for the lessons. You will finish them." And when they're at the end of the summer, if you want to quit, that'll be your choice. But until then, you're going to finish what you started. And so thank God for mom. I kept going, and towards the end of the summer, I met a kid down the street who played electric guitar, and we got into playing together, and he was better than I was, and pretty soon I was playing 4 and 5 hours a day, and then I was hopelessly addicted. But so that's where it all started. And I was played in some rock bands, and until our rock bands would get hired for parties, and of course, we're playing and people were dancing, and well, the church that I grew up in also didn't allow dancing. So that cut. So my dad finds out about this. So that cuts my rock and roll career short.
Oh
So
my gosh.
it became a folkie, there, and so that I basically and some of the bands I formed in West Virginia. I got back to my rock and roll roots for a while, but basically I'm an acoustic folk musician, acoustic guitar, singer, songwriter. That's my love. That's my and this so doing this album after years of playing in the band and playing with other people on Mountain Stage and producing other people. This is like coming home for me.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it really is. And again with all your different influences on
Uh-huh.
this record, it really shows. And you have a little bit of a Creole New
Yeah,
Orleans vibe in there as well. I mean, who couldn't be inspired by New Orleans even if you if you visited for 5 minutes, it's like, oh, I feel like doing a Creole type inspired song in search
well,
of some yeah.
I lived in New Orleans for a year
Mm,
in the
that'll
'70s.
inspire you, yeah.
Yeah. and and it I lived right in the smack dab in the middle of the French Quarter.
Oh my gosh. Oh, what a
and
dream.
and and it was an experience that actually tell you the truth, Bob. At the end of the year, I thought, I'm having so much fun because I was having a lot of fun. Um, and there's a great singer-songwriter community there, and I was able to play in these hotels, playing cover songs, and make a living and the whole thing. But I was thinking I could continue having this kind of fun for about another 5 or 10 years, and I'll probably be dead. Or I can move somewhere else and space my fun out a little bit and maybe live longer. I reluctantly left, but I think I chose wisely. But yeah, so that I had a significant birthday a couple of years ago, and
Yeah.
my wife and my daughter and son-in-law took me to New Orleans for my
Oh,
birthday.
fun.
I said I want to revisit the scene of the crimes. And so that's the song on the album is really a story about that experience. But yeah, when if you've been to New Orleans,
Oh yeah. Yeah, a couple of times, yeah.
and it's just it gets inside of you, and there's
Oh, it
nothing,
does. Yeah. Yeah.
nothing like it. Yeah.
I did a feature article as a freelance writer many years ago, over 20 years ago, but they really hosted me really well, and it's like you cannot go hungry there in the French Quarter.
No, and this uh, uh, Uber driver picked us, my wife and I, up at the airport. And this is you've listened to the song, so these lyrics are actually
Yeah.
in the song, okay? And he said, and I'm going to do my very bad New Orleans accent, okay? But he said, now I have lived in New Orleans
Yeah.
all of my life. He said, we have a few simple rules here. He said, if you will adhere to these rules, you'll get along just fine. He said, number one, eat too much. Number two, drink too much. Number three, dance till you fall down. And if you're in doubt, have seconds.
Boy,
And we
yeah.
and we judiciously followed those rules and got along just fine.
Yeah, it's so true. It really, really is when you go there and so inspirational. It's just, yeah, I totally. Everybody check out this track. It's really great collection. So you picked 10 songs, you whittled it down from a batch of 14.
Yeah. I had a couple of songs that I was going to had intended to put it on, include, but they just didn't quite seem to fit with everything else. I mean, I have a a Tex-Mex song and a Creole and a New Orleans flavored song and a Motown song and some different folk songs, and so I just I, I found a way to make those all work together. But there were a couple of other songs that didn't quite make the cut. you know.
Good. Yeah. And a very Samba like song as well. Everything that goes around comes around.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it's just really amazing how you can pivot to that. And
Yeah.
of course, you have a great female chorus in that as well, repeating
Yeah.
your phrases there. Very funky fun. Definitely.
Yeah. Yeah. That one, I have to credit the band for really uh, jumping on some of these songs and making them, showing me what the songs were trying to be, you know. And um, let's see, what other song was the thing? Oh, there's one other song at the end, out there in the hall.
Yeah. Yeah.
That song, it ends the album, and that song is a story about my one of my earliest musical memories,
Mm,
and that is my father's barbershop quartet used to practice in our living
right.
room every Friday night, and I was, 9 or 10 years old or whatever, and I just was enthralled with the sound, and I would hang out in the hall, hide there really, and sing with them, and which they never knew until one night they abruptly uh, stopped one of their chords, and I kept singing, and I got busted,
Good thing to get busted for. Yeah.
But they were very supportive, and they and very inclusive of me, encouraging. But and that particular, I have a great a little side story for that, is that I have two friends that I started singing with right after I told you the story about learning how to play the guitar at 13. I met two guys, Tommy Williams and Chuck Reeves, in Roswell, New Mexico, and we started singing together in junior high, and all the way through high school. We all got small musical scholarships to go to a local college, Eastern New Mexico University. We sang in the choir there, and we kept our folk group going all the way through college. So we still get together every year and sing, and even remember several of our old songs. The arrangements for old songs. But it's always been one of my boxes on my bucket list to get them to record with me on one of my albums. So they came to West Virginia, and we spent about 4 or 5 days and rehearsed and went in the studio. They sang with me on the track, and then the album ends with a little short barbershop
Mm.
piece, classic barbershop piece. And I enlisted a local guy who's a great bass singer, and the four of us did a barbershop quartet to end it. But that to me, I heard that in my head, and it was a really dream come true for me to be able to execute that and manifest that on the album, and just to have your dear lifelong friends on there, was a dream come true for me too. So that's a very special song for me.
Yeah, great way to use that as a closing track.
Yeah.
Um, I feel like this Randy Newman like vibe on there as well with "It's All Up to You." It seems like something that could be like a Randy Newman-ish tune. It could be in a movie about an old curmudgeon. I love that. It's just like so nails the old curmudgeon character.
Oh God, I'm so honored that you in any way compared me to Randy Newman.
Oh yeah,
But yeah, that song, um, you know, uh, as as I've gotten older, what I say on stage, I wrote this. I've been thinking a lot about aging lately. Not for myself, but for a friend. Not true for myself, but um, and it's all about I basically I feel like aging is inevitable. There's
yeah.
no
Oh,
stopping that.
absolutely, yeah.
But growing old and getting old, that's optional, and that's your attitude, and that's how you feel about life. And I'm sure people in their 40s who are old.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
And
Yeah.
people in their 90s that are young.
Yeah.
So, and that's everybody knows what you're talking about when you say that, because it's all about attitude and how you view yourself. And so that's what the song is about. Tries to be a little humorous about it. And by the way, we did a great video. I can't wait for you to see the video.
Oh, cool. Oh,
Uh,
nice.
but I woke up one morning, and in my dream, I was playing the ukulele on that song.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh, that sounds nice. Well, so I thought, well, I guess I should go out and buy a ukulele. Of course, as a guitar player, you sort of know how to play the ukulele anyway, but it's not that big a stretch. But I bought a ukulele, and that was my ukulele debut too, Bob. So I'm very excited about that.
Oh, good. That first time, no, I did not know. I would have thought you have that on every release and you've been doing it for years. It's just, yeah. Well, the ukulele gives it that, it's a comical touch, but
Yes.
it lightens up things a bit. But what I always found very familiar, it reminds me when Paul McCartney brings that out on stage and does something on the ukulele. I'm like, this is just a really odd intersection to be doing that, but just very genius in itself too.
Well, now I have dabbled in the past. I'll tell you a little short mountain stage story. Years ago, Mike Seeger, who was a famous part of the Seeger family, was playing on mountain stage, and he was doing a sound check, and he said, "Ron, could you accompany me on this song?" He was playing this old fretless banjo. And I said, "Well, sure, Mike." And so I went to get my guitar, and he says, "Well, I'd really prefer you play this." And he pulls out a ukulele. You play the ukulele? And I said, "Well, yeah, I could do that." So anyway, we went to his dressing room, and we're rehearsing, and all of a sudden there's a knock on the door, and we go to the door, and it's Arlo Guthrie
Oh, wow.
in the next dressing room, who happens to be on the show. And he very sheepishly holds up a ukulele, and he says, "Can I play too?"
Oh, wonderful.
I'm probably, I have to say, in the very small percentage of people who have done dual ukuleles with Arlo Guthrie. So
Yeah, not many can say that. Not many could say that. Wow. What a great collection of
uh,
10 songs. It's just
well,
really incredible.
thank you so much. I'm so glad you like the album, and you've obviously listened to it, and that means a lot to me. I'm hoping, you create these songs, and then you spend hours and hours and hours in the studio creating
Hmm.
the music, and then now I'm in the process of inviting the world to listen to it, I'm just you know hoping that people will find something they can relate to, and like the songs, and have something that'll help them, whether it's dance till the music stops, and living in the moment, or it's all up to you. You're getting old is a choice. That kind of thing. Hopefully that'll mean something to people, and I can help people. But mostly, I just hope people really like the music, and enjoy listening to music.
Absolutely. And we can get this on your website as well and wherever you
Yeah,
get your
through
music.
ronsowell.com, and it'll come out. It's released to Spotify and all the digital platforms on May the 9th. It'll be but I have CDs. Actually, I have them now. You can order them through my website, or you can I'll have vinyl later. That takes a little longer,
Mhm.
but yeah, but it'll be available wherever you listen to music.
Yeah. And we could see it out on the road. You're still continuing. I'm probably not as much as you used to,
Yeah,
as of course.
I haven't played out on the road that much in the last couple of years, but I'm gonna go out and start playing live again. I used to play, a lot,
Yeah.
and but Mountain Stage has kind of curtailed my road experience
Sure.
because I have to be very often have to be back home on Sunday to do the show. But yeah, so well, look for me. I'll be out there performing it, and like I said, I'll have be releasing a video too if it's all up to you. And yeah, just come up and say hi if wherever I am.
Absolutely. Yeah. Another person on NPR, Giles Snyder, I like to listen to on the weekends too. Giles, I know his wife. I went to Ohio University with her. So it kind of goes back.
Giles worked at the public radio station in Charleston for years. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Got his start there. And
yeah,
Trina, his wife, grew up there in
yeah,
Charleston. Yeah.
yeah.
Just, love meeting West Virginians. Yes. Absolutely. Well, have a good one. Take care and best wishes.
Thank you so much. Thanks for this experience. I've was looking at some of the other people you've had in your podcast, and I'm honored to be in their company.
Oh,
Yeah,
thank you so much. I really
yeah.
appreciate that.
I
It means a
really
lot.
enjoyed
It really
the
does.
conversation. Yeah.
Take care. Have a
Take
good
care.
one.
Okay.
Cheers.
You.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Isn't that wonderful? I really, really enjoyed that. Just to connect back with my brushes with West Virginia and southeastern Ohio goes way back into my past as well. So a little bit of comfort there speaking with somebody who is from that area. It's a really gorgeous area over there in West Virginia. If you can ever get a chance to go over there, I highly recommend it. Beautiful rivers, very, very scenic, very inspiring as well. Really, really suggested the Charleston, West Virginia area, all the way up through Parkersburg and Marietta, Ohio, and just a really, really nice part of the United States. Until next time, have a good one and enjoy your spring 2025 and beyond. No matter what time you're ever listening to this, thank you for joining me on my little corner of the world. Thank you.